everyone. So I wanted to make a short video just to go over again the difference between an essay and a report. So the first thing we have to understand about the difference between an essay and a report is that they basically have two different purposes. So if you think about the essays that you've written, now again, sometimes essays can turn into articles, but most of these are for a single audience, so usually a teacher. And that's really going to change things, right? Because your teacher is reading it in the context of evaluating your work, right? So it's a different sort of genre. They're reading it to learn how much you've learned, the learning outcomes of the course. A report has multiple audiences, and that's really important because it means that not everybody is going to be reading the report in the same way. So, for example, you may have a situation where somebody only reads the executive summary. Maybe they only read your recommendation section. So the real big difference here is that reports are meant to be read usually by multiple audiences. And so they have to, all of the decisions that happen because you're trying to often meet the needs of multiple audiences. An essay is kind of a cohesive thing. It's meant to be read from start to finish. So if you just read paragraph 5, for example, it wouldn't make sense, right? It wouldn't stand on its own. But a report is meant to be skimmed, and it's also what's called modular. And what that means is that people are reading for different purposes because, again, there's multiple audiences. So I might be only interested in your recommendations. I might only read your recommendation section. I might only be interested in your methods, like how you did your research, and I would only read your method section. So it's meant to be skimmed because, again, in the workplace context, most people are looking for information quickly. And it's also modular, which means that each little piece of the report must stand on its own. And you can see kind of the trend that's developing here. So essays tend to have longer paragraphs that kind of develop a central argument. So, you're going to, let's say that you are writing an article about, or an essay about, let's say how Kwantlen could better support international students. You would probably have, your main argument, your thesis statement, and then your paragraphs from there. Reports, not always. Sometimes reports can have longer paragraphs, but often reports are going to use different organizational aids like headings, bullet points, diagrams. Again, the goal is really going back to this. It's being to be skimmed, and it's meant to be skimmed by multiple audiences. So, that it's really going to change the nature of what it looks like. And once again, in an essay, there's usually no repetition. You would probably lose marks if you said the same thing 3 different times. But repetition is common in reports because, you might state the same thing in your executive summary and then restate it in a slightly different way in your introduction. It might appear again in the discussion section. And that's because you can't trust that somebody who has read the discussion section read the executive summary or vice versa. So let's take a look at what some of these might look like here. I'm just gonna, so here, this is a report that my students did. Oh, let me just delete all of this. So this is a report that my students did. Now, one of the things you'll notice here, this is my 1140 students. They all work together. So this is about how can Kwantlen Polytechnic University better support international students. And what you'll see here is that it's got a lot of different sections. It's easy to skim because it's really long. It's like over I think 150 something pages. But because it's easy to skim, it means that you can scroll through and get exactly what you need. So if you're only interested in the wait list, you can just click there, or you can, in the print version, you can go to the table of contents, get information about the wait list. If you were only interested in academic barriers, for example, you could find that section because different people are going to have different purposes for reading this. The other main section is that, so this is the executive summary. And the executive summary, again, is the most important part of the report, and you write it last. So the executive summary is basically a summary of the report, thinking about what managers need to know. So the goal of it is to be persuasive, and the goal of it is also to really encapsulate everything that's in the report. So you're really just going to state again, and ours has a little bit of a story, but again, it really summarizes a lot of the main points, right? It even kind of summarizes them um, heading by heading. And then it's going to go on and talk about that in the rest of the chapter. So the goal is that managers probably don't have the time to read the whole report. You're going to make it really, really short, really clear, really just a persuasive kind of elevator pitch is your executive summary. And then your introduction is going to just be more of like, here's the contents of this report. So here's what we did, here's what's in this report, here's the main sections of the report. Methods section being, here's what we did, like here's basically how we study this. And then it's broken up into different sections as well, including recommendations, references. You can see that this report has a huge section of references. So again, going back to these main points, the main thing that I want us to think about is reports can look a lot of different ways. So I don't want to say, here's the one way that your report should look. Reports can look many different ways under the sun, right? You could have a one-page report sent by email. You can have scientific reports, you can have recommendation reports, summary reports. There's a lot of different ways the reports look. But the main thing, one of the challenges sometimes of an upper level class is that one of the goals of this assignment was kind of you using your judgment to figure out what is the best way to convey this in a report format, right? So depending on your topic, you might have had slightly different takes, or you might have slightly different, discussion section might be arranged in slightly different ways. There's a lot of different ways that people arrange them that were great. But the main thing is to really just understand the difference between a report and an essay. So I hope that was helpful. Have a great day.